day 2 of FSTEC.
Day 2.
In Orlando. I am with Chris Padilla, the Vice President of Product and Brand IT at Dine Brands.
That's right.
Which is the parent company of Applebee's and IHOP and Fuzzy's Taco Shop. Thank you for joining. I love working with your entire team, so I'm thrilled to be able to have a conversation with you as well.
Awesome. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, and how long have you been with the company? Let's break the ice here.
Sure. I've been with Dine Brands for 2.5 years now.
And where did you come from prior?
I came, so I'm a second generation technologist, right? I'll start there, but I've done franchising for quite some time. So real estate before that, and then before that, hotels.
Okay, hotels. I like that you said that because we're in a very heavy loyalty environment. I'm not sure if you've heard.
Yeah.
If you have, I'm sure you heard it from NRN.
Yep.
But loyalty is table stakes now. So tell me what that means for the 3 brands that you work with.
Yeah, for sure. Loyalty is at a point where it's constant change and evolution, and we're focused on meeting loyalty where the needs need to be, right? And so for each of our brands, it's no longer just about accruing points or offers. It's really about driving personalization, driving affinity to that brand, and creating a moment of emotional connection. And so when you think about loyalty, it's everything from IHOP and their loyalty evolution to Applebee's and finding the right mix of driving the digital companionship of the app, as well as pulling folks back to the restaurants. And even Fuzzy's, the same concept, is that loyalty is a great deal of the digital experience too. So when you have 40% of your off-prem sales on Fuzzy side coming from digital, loyalty plays a great deal about how do you bring that to life.
Sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned that it's no longer about X, it's now about Y.
Yeah.
Zooming into that personalization. When was sort of that, that inflection point? And what was it? Was it Amazon? When did this start to change and why?
When? That is a big question, $1 million question probably. And I would say yes. If you look at loyalty and you zoom out and you think about multiple industries, you asked me where I started in hotels, they were on the cutting edge back then, integrating loyalty, but also integrating a personalization of what you would expect on your digital presence and what you get in restaurant, right? In hotel at that time. And I think it's the same thing applies for how we're thinking about loyalty across the restaurant sector, which is, it's not just your traditional, you stay or you buy or you purchase X, you get Y. You got to provide some sort of personalized value. Mm-hmm. And you're right, personalization is throughout every point of a consumer's life. So why wouldn't it be in our restaurant table stakes for restaurants?
Okay, it sounds challenging.
Yeah.
How do you execute against something like that? I mean, I guess I'm making the assumption, so forgive me if I'm wrong. Sure. It's because we have more data. But having more data doesn't necessarily translate easily because you gotta have people to understand the data and then put it to use. So explain how you're able to do that at Dine Brands.
What I would say is a couple key examples. One is we use data, we used our insights, our behavior and customer insights to do full revamps of both the brands. So IHOP and Applebee's, our mobile app, their website. We went through that effort. That is 2023 is when that started, and we've been reaping the benefits ever since. And the key to that is you wanted to understand what exactly do our customers need? Where are they on their tech adoption and their ability to sort of take in this change? And then you constantly evolve that over the process. What we did as a fast follow to that was partner with Google Cloud and introduce an AI recommendation engine into both the experiences for IHOP and then Applebee's. And that was by design. We started with one brand because we wanted to get the value right. And so what is it? What is this recommendation engine? It's stuff that we might just take for granted in our everyday lives, but it's when you're checking out, you're selecting your items within the menu, and before you go give your payment information, you have that prompt that says, how about this? Have you considered that? And the difference and why it's a personalization engine is it's not static. It is personalized to your habits as a consumer, as well as diners that are just like you. And so if they know that you prefer this dessert with this entree, we're going to suggest it for you and make sure that beverage is in place too. And so we started that process with IHOP. We went through the iteration of pilot, learn, adapt, figure out what worked, what didn't. We saw great success to the point at which we brought it to Applebee's too. And they have different variations, implementations of where it makes sense in that consumer journey flow. But the end result speaks volumes. 80% of all transactions have interaction with that recommendation widget, if you will. And that just says it's working. People are seeing value in it. And we're not doing this because we want to solely drive upsell and increase check. Of course, that's an element to the business case, but it's about driving the right sort of engagement with the user and making sure they see value in the tool, and they're seeing the value.
80%. What has been yielded from that? I mean, I know that you've talked in the past about, for example, incrementality, check uplifts. I mean, do you have numbers to say, okay, we're probably getting a pretty decent return on this AI reco engine?
Yeah, I don't have the most recent numbers, but I will tell you is we're getting increased check size overall. We're seeing so much benefit to it that our next sites is, where do we apply this 2 different ways? One, bring it to fuzzies. It's a natural sort of expansion of the infrastructure and the scalability of the product. But 2, we start to ask the question of how else can we create benefit to the user, to the guest? And you ask the question of how can we bring this technology in restaurant, right? So we have server tablets, right? We've had server tablets and IHOP particularly fully rolled out for a couple of years now. We're seeing 90+% penetration of that. That in itself is driving reduced table turns. It's driving increased check size, increased tip. It's allowing a server to take on a larger share of the front of house and do what they do best, which is service, right? And hospitality. So the next question leaps to, what if you could provide the right prompts to the server to help encourage them to have that interaction of, have you forgot this, or what about this, or that one more thing? The things that we all know great servers do on their own, and how do we equip and democratize that information?
Very good. I just want to make sure that I'm clear. It's the AI recommendation engine is rolled out IHOP system-wide.
Yep.
Applebee system-wide?
Yep.
Okay. When is the goal to start integrating that into fuzzies?
I would say sometime next year, we're going to look at just where does that make sense in the process, and how do we'll do the same sort of test, pilot, learn to make sure that we're implementing it in the right way for that customer set.
Understood. Now, I was warned you're in your quiet period, so forgive me if I stray.
Yeah.
You brought up an interesting point here about, server handhelds. If we zoom out a little bit, I think it seems daunting to have to be able to prioritize consumer-facing tools and, employee-facing tools.
Yep.
What is good for operations, and what do consumers not only expect and demand, but get encouraged by to upsell them and so forth. So on and so forth. How do you prioritize all that? Because, you look around at a show like this, for example, there's no shortage of opportunities. So what is your process for prioritizing this and saying, you know what, we should go forth with this for loyalty, IHOP, we should do this for AI recommendation. I'm curious about that.
I think it fundamentally comes down to a couple of very simple questions that you ask up front, and for any technology offering, or is this thing, this functionality, this capability, is it going to provide the guests the satisfaction that they're looking for in our experience? Satisfaction, happy guests turn to repeat business, which increases traffic, increases sales. It also encourages our franchisees to open more restaurants. And so when you start back with the problem statement of, is this adding value to our guests? Even if it's a technology designed for team members, employees within the restaurant or above restaurant, like the support staffs that we have, if you fundamentally go back to the folks that are eating and consuming your product, it'll be a win all around.
Sure.
Yeah.
What types of things do you look at specifically for back of house? Because I know Lawrence, for example, is on a mission to simplify things back there at IHOP. Lawrence Kim, the newish president. I know John is always looking to maximize efficiencies at Applebee. So, how do you take those I guess, directives and try to understand what is going to work best for the team members to make sure that not only is the product consistent, but it's speedy and it maintains its level of quality.
Yeah, and Lawrence has been wholly focused, and we're very supportive to enable the simplification across the board, and technology is an enabler to that. It could really drive change, especially when a point of sale is really at the heart of a restaurant. If you think about what today's day and age is, it runs everything from guests coming in through integrations with delivery service providers to the front of house, talking to the back of house. And I would say on the IHOP side, we're wholly focused on driving operational efficiency on KDS and doing it in a way that makes sense for an IHOP and for a dual brand as well, as we look on the dual brand concept.
About that.
Yeah. And Applebee's, it's more of the same. I mean, KDS is the big thing. We're looking and exploring camera vision. So camera vision across the board, everything from your expo line to your to-go prep to the parking lot to in restaurant, your front of house. It's really understanding where does it make sense to deploy camera vision. The one top of mind for us that we want to understand is order accuracy and also overall efficiencies of an order coming in, bumping, and when is it actually pulled from the expo to run it, right? Okay.
When you say looking at AI vision or camera vision, are we in test with that? Or?
So
you and I.
We can test it together. You let me know when and where. We'll go to your kitchen, right? Right for that. We have something that we call Dine's AI Innovation Foundry.
Okay.
So a couple years ago, not even a couple years, I keep saying it's a couple years ago. It was last year, right? In which AI is a talk of the town. We recognized we needed to do something about it in-house and to build, it graduated quickly from a test lab to an incubation center for franchisee-driven use cases to add value. One of those that came out of it was camera vision of, hey, we could do a better job at either leveraging existing cameras we have for security purposes or deploying them in certain areas. So the short answer to my long answer is we're exploring and understanding, does it make sense to do it in-house? Does it make sense to partner with somebody? What is the right use case to really lean into? Because it's such a big area. And the real benefits to it is because AI has evolved so quickly over the last few years, there's a lot of solutions already in place here. And how do we adapt that for the restaurant space?
Sure. You know what intrigues me about this is, Applebee's in particular has a stout to-go off-premises business. Mm-hmm. It seems to me like that would be especially applicable for maximizing efficiencies there. I mean, is that how are you prioritizing the products that you're looking at in this foundry and experimenting with to make sure that you're supporting the off-premise businesses? Because I know Vicky's working hard on promoting that.
You're right. And Vicky is 1,000% right. The off-premise to-go accuracy is the biggest one because you want delightful customers. You don't want them opening up their package when they get it delivered to them or they're picking up on their own, recognizing that something was missing. And so what I would say is that there's a healthy share of prioritization that has to be done as to where it makes sense to focus in on it. But the beauty of it is the implementation of to-go accuracy and Expo, they're very similar implementations. You're looking at similar things and there's other solutions to explore too, whether it's like a scale, for instance. Yeah.
Sure. Did your technology focus or prioritization shift at all with the birth and the subsequent growth of the dual branded? Because you went from basically two pretty defined day parts with Applebee's and IHOP separately, and now you've got an all-day situation that complement each other. I'm curious if that has forced you to shift about back-of-house tech differently.
Not as much as you would expect, right? And so they all share similar synergies of benefits of technology. It's actually more of the implementation of the back of house, right? And so you're learning from each brand. The sister brands are learning from each other in the back of house when they're performing the tasks together. And you're learning of where one is benefiting and one particular way of how they managed and ran their back of house versus the other. And you're creating the right sort of conversation around operators. So operators that may have been IHOP first or Applebee's first, they're in a dialogue of how do we continue to evolve this product to benefit everybody.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Two final questions then, Chris, if I can squeeze them out of you. It seems tricky. I want to zoom out and kind of go high level here. It seems tricky to be able to parse out priorities for all three of your brands because at the end of the day, other than IHOP and Applebee's being sit-down, they're wildly different concepts. And you're even experimenting with some sit-down components for Fuzzies too. But other than that, the concepts are different. The day parts, like we mentioned, are different. Explain your process on, how you prioritize what is best for each brand. You did say you learn, obviously the AI Reco engine worked at IHOP, so that gave you a good green light to roll it out at Applebee's, but otherwise, what is your process for that?
Yeah, so first and foremost, technology is dictated by where each of the brands are in their strategy, what they're focused on, and how do we adapt to meet their needs. But across anything and whatever technology we choose to roll out for each of the brands, there's principles that define it, whether it's cloud first, it's scalability, it's security first, it's customer centric. We build those into the process so that if one wins with an idea and a feature, functionality, capability, we can quickly scale it to others, like the recommendation engine. And the list really goes on, but it's truly about designing in such a way in which we're not backing ourselves and limiting ourselves into a single solution for a single brand. And they learn from each other and adapt as well.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win all around.
I lied. Now I've got two more questions. The foundry, I imagine, helps with you understanding where to go.
Yep.
I mean, that's seems game changer. Tell me how that has impacted your job and in that prioritization and understanding where those need to be.
Yeah. So the foundry, we have hundreds of use cases in a backlog for the foundry. We'll pick a couple, we'll fail fast and where they don't make sense. We have very, very short cycles of implementation, weeks in understanding an idea, seeing if it has worthiness, what the business value is. And the byproduct of that is what I'm observing, because we're all in planning season for next year, is that some of those ideas are graduating into a larger request, and they're like, there's viability to it. And I love that. It's getting the innovative idea and thinking, happening internally. It's creating the right engagement amongst our franchisees and them vocalizing the what ifs and what could be. And then we're actually able to tie that more naturally to our annual planning process of which ones are going to graduate into ideas that we're going to get them out there in full function. And so to me, that's a great win. Is you go from you're democratizing ideas. You're going from a select handful of people that are driving direction, and you're adding the weight of the army of the rest of the system and the rest of the support staff to help enable direction.
I mean, that seems critical because you need that franchisee buy-in.
That's right.
A big franchise system. So that what you're saying is this has helped them see and understand why.
And be part of the process too, right? I think we actually, not too long ago, with one of our brands, had a full breakout session with a group of committee managers, franchisees. And their words were, we need to take this and expand it by 3-5 times X in duration. And that just speaks to the value of giving them the voice to be able to share their ideas and how we can translate that into value for the future.
Very cool. Yeah. All right, final question. I know you're in your quiet period, so my expectations are tamped down. But what is next? What are we going to expect? What kind of conversation are we going to have next year, Chris? Because obviously this space and everything you just outlined is moving at a staggering pace, the likes of which you and I have never known in our careers. And so, how now you've got the foundry to help you kind of conceptualize and move it at a faster, kind of more of a startup pace. But, what do we expect out of these brands in 2026?
So I'll answer it two different ways.
Sure.
The first is innovation, guest satisfaction, operational efficiencies. Those don't go away. They're mainstays. They'll continue to be on the forefront of what we focus on. But the last parts of this is much more of how do we start to drive this personalization to the next level? How do we start to drive physical experiences with digital experiences and bring them together in a way that makes sense for our changing consumer, and doing it in a way that resonates with what our brands are, which are human-to-human interaction. They have very specific brand identities, and we want to make sure that comes through in all of that. So I would say is innovation's going to be there, personalization, and we're always focused on driving efficiencies across the board because that's what our franchisees expect of us.
Very cool. Well, I'll obviously be following along and appreciate your conversation today and wishing you good luck. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks so much.
All right.
Appreciate it.